The fork slipped from Arya's fingers, clattering against the chipped ceramic plate loud enough to make the waitress look up from her crossword puzzle. But Arya didn't notice. She couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. Could only stare at the man standing behind four small, dirty faces, golden eyes that had haunted her dreams for 7 years. Kieran Blackwood. The one who'd left without a word. The one who'd taken her heart with him. "Please, lady," the smallest pup whispered, tugging at Arya's sleeve with fingers that poked through worn mittens. "We're really hungry." Arya's Omega instinct screamed at her to gather these children close, to feed them, protect them. But her human heart was too busy shattering all over again as Kieran's familiar scent hit her, pine and rain and something wild that made her wolf whimper. "Arya." His voice was rougher now, deeper. The boy she'd loved had become a man, but those eyes still held secrets. She found her voice somewhere between anger and heartbreak. "Don't." The four pups looked between them, sensing the tension. The oldest, a girl maybe 8 with tangled brown hair, stepped protectively in front of the others. "We can go somewhere else, Kieran. We don't need." "Yes, you do." Arya's training kicked in, her Omega nature overriding her personal pain. She couldn't let children go hungry, no matter who stood behind them. She pushed her half-eaten sandwich toward them. "Take it. All of it." The pups fell on the food like they hadn't eaten in days. Which, Arya realized with growing horror, they probably hadn't. "Thank you," Kieran said quietly, his hands resting on the shoulders of the 2 smallest pups. "I know this is. I know I have no right to ask." "You're right. You don't." Arya's voice came out steadier than she felt. She studied the children, really looked at them. Thin faces, clothes that had seen better days, but clean. Cared for, despite their circumstances. How long since they've eaten? 2 days. The admission seemed to cost him. "I've been looking for work, but rogues didn't get hired easily." Arya knew that much. After her mate David died, leaving her with debts to the pack that she couldn't pay, she'd been cast out too. The only difference was she'd found work in the human world. Kieran, apparently, hadn't been so lucky. "There's more," she said, signaling to May, the night shift waitress. "Bring whatever you have. Soup, bread, anything." "Arya, you don't have to. I'm not doing this for you." The lie came easily. She was absolutely doing this for him, and they both knew it. But she was also doing it for the pups, who were looking at her like she'd hung the moon just for sharing her dinner. May brought over a pot of soup and a basket of rolls, eyeing the group suspiciously but saying nothing. Arya had been coming here for months, always alone, always making one meal last for hours. May probably thought she was crazy. Maybe she was. "What are their names?" Arya asked, watching the children eat with single-minded focus. "Sarah," Kieran said, nodding toward the protective older girl. "Tommy's the little one with the curls. The twins are Jake and Emma. And they're orphans." The word came out flat. Their pack was, there was an attack. "I got them out." Arya's heart clenched. She'd heard rumors of pack wars, of alphas consolidating power, but she'd been too focused on her own survival to pay attention. "How long have you been caring for them?" 6 months. 6 months of being responsible for 4 traumatized children. 6 months of trying to find food, shelter, safety. No wonder he looked older, harder. The carefree boy she'd loved wouldn't have lasted a week. "Where are you staying?" Kieran's jaw tightened. "We have a place." Which meant they didn't. Or what they had wasn't fit for children. Arya's small apartment wasn't much, but it was warm and safe. She had a job, steady income. She could help them. The thought terrified her. "I should go," Kieran said, clearly reading her expression. "Thank you for the food. It means more than you know." "Wait." The word escaped before she could stop it. Do they have somewhere safe to sleep tonight?" Something flickered in those golden eyes. Hope, maybe. Or desperation. We'll be fine. That's not what I asked. Sarah looked up from her soup, studying Arya with eyes too old for her face. Are you Pack, miss? No, sweetheart. What was she? Not Pack, not rogue, not anything really. I'm just someone who wants to help. Why? This from Tommy, the littlest one, who couldn't be more than 4. Nobody helps rogues. The simple truth from a child's mouth hit harder than any accusation could have. Arya met Kieran's gaze across the table, seeing her own pain reflected there. They'd both learned that lesson the hard way. Because everyone deserves help, she said finally. And everyone deserves a safe place to sleep. Kieran shook his head. Arya, we can't. You've done enough. My apartment isn't much, but it's warm. There's a couch, and I can make pallets on the floor. She was insane. She was barely making ends meet herself. But looking at these children, at the man who'd once meant everything to her, she couldn't walk away. Just for tonight. Please, Kieran. Sarah's voice was carefully neutral, but Arya caught the hope underneath. It's supposed to rain. Kieran closed his eyes, and Arya saw the moment he broke. The moment pride took a back seat to the children's needs. One night, he said quietly. Just one night. As they gathered their meager belongings and prepared to leave, Arya caught sight of herself in the diner's window. Pale, thin, exhausted. She looked exactly like what she was, a woman hanging on by a thread. But for the first time in months, she felt something other than despair. She felt needed. Outside, the first drops of rain began to fall, and Arya pulled her coat tighter as they walked toward her apartment. Kieran kept pace beside her, the children between them, and she tried not to think about how right it felt. How much like a family they looked. Because this was temporary. One night, like he'd said. Come morning, they'd be gone, and she'd be alone again. The thought should have been a relief. Instead, it felt like another goodbye she wasn't ready for. Chapter 2. Arya's apartment building looked like luxury compared to where Kieran led them next. This is temporary, he said, his voice tight as they climbed the narrow stairs beside Murphy's auto shop. The smell of motor oil and rust clung to everything, and Arya could hear the children's labored breathing as they climbed. I know it's not much. It's fine, she lied, following him up 2 flights of stairs that creaked ominously with each step. The hallway was dim, lit by a single bare bulb that flickered intermittently. Water stains marked the ceiling, and the carpet had seen better decades. Kieran stopped at apartment 3B, fumbling with keys that looked newer than the building itself. The landlord's not, he doesn't ask questions. That's worth something. The door opened to reveal a studio apartment that couldn't have been more than 400 square feet. But Arya's first impression wasn't of the cramped space or the second-hand furniture, it was of how clean everything was. The floors were spotless, the few dishes stacked neatly beside a tiny sink. A pair of children's drawings hung on the refrigerator, bright crayon flowers that seemed to bloom defiantly against the stark white appliance. It's perfect, Sarah announced, flopping onto the small couch with obvious relief. No stairs to the bathroom. And the heat works, Tommy added, pressing his small hands against the radiator. Sometimes. Arya's heart clenched. These children were grateful for the bare minimum, heat that worked sometimes, a bathroom on the same floor. What had they been living in before this? There's milk in the fridge, Kieran said, moving toward the small kitchen area. It's not much, but... It's expired, Emma called out, her nose wrinkled as she peered into the refrigerator. By like, a week. Kieran's shoulders sagged almost imperceptibly. I'll get more tomorrow. With what money? The words slipped out before Arya could stop them. She watched his jaw tighten, saw the flash of pain in those golden eyes. I'll figure it out. His voice was carefully neutral, but she caught the edge underneath. I always do. Jake snorted from where he was exploring the tiny apartment. Like when you figured out breakfast yesterday? Or lunch the day before that? Jake. Kieran's voice carried a warning. What? It's true. The boy's chin jutted out stubbornly. You can't keep pretending everything's okay when it's not. Everything is okay, Kieran said firmly. We have a roof over our heads, we have nothing. Jake's voice cracked. We're living in a dump, eating garbage, and you won't even let us go to the shelter because you're too proud to. Enough. The word came out as a growl, and Arya felt the subtle shift in the air that meant Kieran's wolf was close to the surface. We don't air our problems in front of guests. She's not a guest, Sarah said quietly. She's the lady who fed us. The simple statement hung in the air like an accusation. Arya looked around the sparse apartment again, noting details she'd missed before. The children's clothes were clean but obviously hand-mended. The couch had a blanket thrown over it that didn't quite hide the worn fabric underneath. And there was no food, none, visible anywhere. When did you last eat? She asked Kieran directly. His mouth tightened. I'm fine. That's not what I asked. 3 days, Tommy piped up helpfully. He gave us the last of the cereal and said he wasn't hungry. Tommy. Kieran's voice was strained. Well, you did. The 4-year-old's eyes were wide with innocent honesty. And yesterday when Jake found that sandwich in the trash, you made us split it and said you'd already eaten, but you hadn't because I was watching Anne. Jesus Christ. Arya sank onto the couch, pulling Tommy onto her lap without thinking. You're starving. We're managing, Kieran said stiffly. You're dying. The words came out harsher than she intended. All of you. Look at these kids, Kieran. Really look at them. She gestured to where Emma and Jake sat on the floor, their thin faces gaunt with hunger. Sarah had fallen asleep on the couch, exhaustion winning over everything else. Tommy was warm in her arms, but she could feel his ribs through his thin shirt. They need medical attention, she continued, her voice gentler now. And food. Real food, not scraps from restaurant garbage. You think I don't know that? Kieran's control finally snapped. You think I don't see what this is doing to them? What I'm doing to them? Then why? Because I don't have a choice. He turned away, running his hands through his hair. I'm a rogue, Arya. No pack, no connections, no references. Nobody hires rogues for anything decent. I've tried everything, day labor, night shifts, cash jobs. But it's never enough. Never consistent. There are programs. For humans. Not for our kind. He laughed bitterly. Try explaining to social services that you're a werewolf caring for 4 orphan pups. See how that goes. Arya fell silent, holding Tommy closer. She'd been so focused on her own struggles after being cast out that she'd never considered how much harder it would be with children. At least she'd had skills, references from her human jobs. Kieran had been young when he left, barely 18. What connections could he have built? How long have you been taking care of them? She asked. Since the night their pack was slaughtered. His voice was flat, emotionless. I was there on other business. Heard the attack starting. Got them out through a window while their parents fought to buy them time. Other business? Kieran's smile was cold. I was robbing them. Their alpha had something I needed, and I figured a quick smash and grab would be easy money. He shook his head. Instead, I ended up with 4 traumatized kids and a target on my back. Target? The pack that attacked, they wanted no witnesses. When they realized 4 pups were missing. He shrugged. Let's just say we've been moving a lot. Arya's heart clenched. That's why you can't stay in one place. Why you can't build connections or find steady work. Every few months, they catch our scent. We run. He looked at the sleeping children. I keep telling myself it's temporary. That I'll find a way to keep them safe, find them a real home. But it's been 6 months, and I'm failing them. You're keeping them alive. Barely. He sank into the single chair, suddenly looking exhausted. Emma's been coughing for weeks. Tommy's losing weight. And Jake. He trailed off. What about Jake? He's angry. At me, at the world, at being hungry all the time. He's starting to lash out, and I don't know how to help him. Kieran's voice broke slightly. I'm not father material, Arya. I never wanted kids. I barely know how to take care of myself. But you're doing it anyway. Because someone has to. He met her eyes. What was I supposed to do? Leave them to die? The question hung between them, heavy with implication. Arya studied his face, seeing the boy she'd loved overlaid with the man he'd become. Harder, more careful, but with that same fundamental decency that had drawn her to him 7 years ago. Why did you leave? The question slipped out before she could stop it. 7 years ago. You just disappeared. No word, no explanation. I thought you were dead. Kieran went very still. Arya. I waited for you. The words came out in a rush. 4 months. I kept thinking you'd come back, that there was some explanation. But you never did. And then David showed up, and my father kept pushing, saying you were never coming back, that I needed to be practical. You married him. I mated with him. The distinction mattered in their world. Because I thought you'd abandoned me. Because I thought what we had meant nothing to you. It meant everything to me. Kieran's voice was raw. Everything, Arya. Leaving you was the hardest thing I ever did. Then why? Because your father threatened to have me killed if I didn't. The words hit her like a physical blow. What? He came to me the night before I was supposed to meet you. Said he knew about us, about our plans to run away together. Said if I didn't disappear, he'd make sure I had an accident. A fatal one. Arya's world tilted. That's impossible. My father wouldn't. He had it all planned out. Kieran's voice was bitter. Made it very clear that an Omega daughter mating with a nobody wasn't acceptable. He had someone better in mind for you. David. The name came out as a whisper. The son of a neighboring alpha. Good bloodlines, political connections. Everything I wasn't. Kieran leaned forward, his eyes intense. He gave me a choice, Arya. Leave town and never come back, or die and let you find my body. Either way, you'd be free to make a suitable match. You're lying. But even as she said it, she knew he wasn't. The pieces were falling into place, her father's sudden interest in her love life, his convenient introduction of David right after Kieran disappeared, his insistence that she stop living in the past, and be practical. I wish I were. Kieran's smile was sad. I was 18, Arya. Broke, powerless, from a family with no status. What chance did I have against a beta with connections? You should have told me. So you could what? Get yourself killed defending me? Or worse, get cast out for defying your father? He shook his head. At least this way, you had a chance at a decent life. Decent? Arya's voice rose. I was miserable. David was cold, controlling. He never loved me, just saw me as a trophy. And when he died, he left me with debts I couldn't pay and a pack that threw me out like garbage. I'm sorry. The words seemed inadequate. I thought. I hoped you'd be happy. Well, I wasn't. Tears stung her eyes. I spent 7 years thinking you didn't care, that I was just some stupid girl who'd imagined what we had. Do you know what that did to me? I know. His voice was quiet. I know, and I'm sorry. But I couldn't risk your safety. I couldn't risk. My choice. The words exploded out of her. It was my choice to make, not yours, not my father's. You took that away from me. I was protecting you. You were protecting yourself. She stood up, pacing the small space. You didn't want to fight for me. You took the easy way out. Easy? Kieran's voice turned hard. You think the last 7 years have been easy? You think watching you mate with someone else, knowing I could never come back, never touch you again, you think that was easy? You were watching me? From a distance. I had to know you were safe. He looked away. I saw your mating ceremony. Saw you in your white dress, smiling at him like you'd never smiled at me. I was acting. The admission came out hoarse. I was dying inside, but I was acting because that's what good Omega daughters do. They smile and mate who they're told to mate and pretend to be happy. Arya. My father manipulated both of us. She turned to face him. He used your love for me against you, and my grief over losing you to push me toward David. And it worked. He got exactly what he wanted. Until David died. Until David died, she agreed. And then suddenly I wasn't useful anymore. A widowed Omega with debts. They couldn't get rid of me fast enough. They stared at each other across the small room, 7 years of pain and misunderstanding hanging between them. Finally, Kieran spoke. I'm sorry, he said quietly. I thought I was doing the right thing. I thought I was protecting you. I know. Her anger was fading, replaced by exhaustion. I'm sorry too. For marrying him, for not fighting harder, for not trying to find you. What would have been the point? I was nobody. A rogue with no prospects. You were the boy I loved. She looked at the sleeping children. And you're the man who saved 4 kids he didn't even know. That's not nobody, Kieran. That's everything. He was quiet for a long moment, watching Tommy sleep in her arms. What happens now? Now? Now we figure out how to keep these kids alive. She shifted Tommy to a more comfortable position. Starting with getting them to a doctor. I can't afford. I can. She met his eyes. I have insurance through my job. I can claim their relatives. Arya, you don't have to. Yes, I do. She looked at Emma, who was curled up on the floor, and Jake, who was pretending to sleep while listening to every word. They're children, Kieran. They shouldn't have to suffer because the adults in their lives made mistakes. I can't pay you back. I'm not asking you to. She stood up, still holding Tommy. But I'm not leaving them like this. I won't walk away from kids who need help. Even if it means getting involved with me again. The question hung in the air. Arya looked at him, really looked at him. The boy she'd loved was gone, replaced by a man who'd learned to carry impossible burdens. But his eyes were the same. Still golden, still kind, still holding depths she wanted to explore. Especially then, she said quietly. Something flickered in his expression, hope, maybe, or just relief that he wouldn't have to face tomorrow alone. They'll need more than medical care. They need stability, regular meals, a safe place to sleep. I know. And the pack that's hunting us, they're not going to give up. As long as these kids are alive, they're a threat. Then we'll deal with that too. We? Arya looked around the small apartment, at the children who'd already been through too much, at the man who'd sacrificed everything to keep them safe. It wasn't the life she'd planned. It wasn't the quiet, simple existence she'd been trying to build for herself. But it was right. For the first time in 7 years, something felt right. She confirmed. Starting tomorrow, we figure out how to give these kids the life they deserve. And us? The question was barely a whisper. I don't know, she admitted. But I know I can't walk away. Not from them, and not from you. Not again. Kieran's smile was small but genuine. Tomorrow, then. Tomorrow. As if sensing the shift in the room, Sarah stirred on the couch. Are you staying? She asked sleepily. For tonight, Arya said. Good. Sarah closed her eyes again. I like you. You smell like safety. Out of the mouths of babes. Arya met Kieran's eyes over the child's head, seeing her own determination reflected there. Whatever came next, they'd face it together. It was a start. Chapter 3. Arya's apartment had never felt smaller than it did with 5 additional bodies crammed inside. She stood in her tiny kitchen at 6 in the morning, calculating and recalculating the contents of her refrigerator and pantry. 2 boxes of cereal, a half-gallon of milk, some eggs, bread, and the leftover takeout from 3 days ago that she'd been saving for lunch. It wasn't nearly enough. The eggs are burning, Emma observed from her perch on the counter, where she'd been watching Arya cook with the intense focus of a child who'd learned not to take meals for granted. Right. Arya flipped the eggs, noting how Emma's eyes tracked every movement. You want to help? Really? Emma's face lit up. Kieran never lets us help. He says we'll get hurt. Well, you're not going to get hurt making toast. Arya handed her the bread. Think you can handle that? Emma nodded seriously, approaching the toaster like it was a sacred ritual. In the living room, Arya could hear Kieran's voice, low and patient, as he helped Tommy get dressed. Jake was sprawled on the couch, pretending to watch cartoons while actually listening to everything happening around him. Sarah sat at the small table, working on homework that was 3 weeks overdue. It was domestic chaos, and Arya found herself loving every minute of it. Until she checked her bank account on her phone and reality came crashing back. Her checking account balance stared back at her like an accusation, $247.83. Her next paycheck wasn't until Friday, and that was assuming she could get her full hours at the laundromat. Rent was due in 2 weeks. The electric bill was already past due. And now she had 5 extra mouths to feed. The toast is ready, Emma announced proudly, holding up 2 perfectly golden slices. Beautiful job. Arya managed a smile as she divided the eggs among 6 plates, making sure the children got the larger portions. Why don't you go tell everyone breakfast is ready? As the others gathered around her small table, Arya did the math again. Even with careful shopping and stretching every dollar, she had maybe enough money to feed them all for a week. After that, she pushed the thought away. She'd figure it out. She always did. This is really good, Sarah said, taking a careful bite of her eggs. Thank you. Yeah, thanks, Jake mumbled, though he was eating with the focused intensity of someone making up for lost time. Kieran caught her eye across the table. You don't have to do this, he said quietly. Do what? Feed us. House us. Pretend this is sustainable. Arya glanced at the children, who were hanging on every word despite trying to look like they weren't listening. We'll figure it out. With what money? His voice was barely above a whisper. I know you're struggling too. I can smell it on you, the stress, the worry. I'm fine. Liar. But he said it gently, almost fondly. You were always a terrible liar. After breakfast, Arya made the decision that had been brewing since she'd seen her bank balance. She needed supplies, real food, children's medicine, clothes that fit. And there was only one place she could get them without money. Her old pack territory. I need to go out for a few hours, she told Kieran as she gathered her purse and keys. Can you watch them? Of course. Where are you going? Just errands. She avoided his eyes. I'll be back before dinner. Arya. His voice carried a warning. What aren't you telling me? Nothing. I'm just going to get some supplies. From where? She finally met his gaze. My father's house. He owes me at least that much. Absolutely not. Kieran was on his feet immediately. You're not going back there alone. I have to. You can't leave the kids, and I can't take them with me. Then we'll figure out another way. There is no other way. Arya's voice was firm. I know where my father keeps his emergency supplies. I can get in and out without anyone seeing me. And if you're caught? I won't be. She hoped. The drive to her old pack territory took 45 minutes, and with each mile, Arya felt the familiar weight of dread settling in her stomach. She'd sworn she'd never come back here, never set foot on land that had once been her home but had become her prison. But desperate times called for desperate measures. The Moonrise Pack territory sprawled across 300 acres of heavily forested land, dotted with cabins and communal buildings. Arya parked her car at the edge of the territory, where the scent markers were thickest. She'd have to walk the rest of the way. Her father's house sat near the center of the territory, a sprawling log cabin that had been in their family for generations. As Beta, he'd always taken pride in maintaining the old traditions, the old ways. Which meant he also maintained old-fashioned emergency stockpiles. The supply shed was separate from the main house, hidden behind a grove of pine trees. Arya had helped organize it countless times as a child, knew exactly where everything was stored. Canned goods, dried foods, medical supplies, blankets, everything she needed to keep Kieran and the children fed and healthy for at least a month. She was loading the last of the supplies into her backpack when she heard the footsteps behind her. Well. Look what the cat dragged in. Arya's blood turned to ice. She turned slowly, already knowing who she'd find. Damian Steele stood in the doorway of the shed, his massive frame blocking her exit. He was bigger than she remembered, his shoulders broader, his presence more commanding. At 32, he'd grown into his role as the pack's enforcer, and it showed in every line of his body. "Hello, Damian." She kept her voice steady, casual. "I was just stealing from your own pack." He stepped into the shed, and Arya instinctively backed away. That's a serious offense, Arya. Especially for someone who's already been cast out. "I'm not stealing. I'm taking what's mine. Nothing here is yours anymore." His eyes were cold, calculating. "You gave up your rights when you let your mate die in debt to us. David's debts weren't my responsibility. His debts became your debts the moment you mated with him. That's pack law." Damian moved closer, and Arya caught his scent, dominant, aggressive, with an undercurrent of something that made her wolf whimper. "Of course, there's still a way to clear those debts. I'm not interested. You haven't heard my offer yet. I don't need to." "The answer is no." Damian's laugh was low and unpleasant. "You always were too proud for your own good. But pride doesn't put food on the table, does it? I'm managing just fine." "Are you?" He circled her slowly, like a predator sizing up prey. "Because word around town is that you're living in a shithole apartment, working double shifts at a human laundromat, barely scraping by. That doesn't sound like managing to me. What I do with my life is none of your business. It became my business the moment you started harboring rogues." Arya's blood ran cold. "I don't know what you're talking about. Don't lie to me." His voice turned dangerous. "I can smell them on you. Multiple scents, unfamiliar. Children." His nostrils flared. "And a male. An adult male who's been very close to you." "I don't." "You spent the night with them, didn't you? Played house with some rogue and his bastard pups." Damian grabbed her arm, his grip just shy of painful. "Do you have any idea what the penalty is for harboring rogues? For giving aid and comfort to enemies of the pack? They're not enemies. They're children. They're rogues. Which makes them dangerous." His grip tightened. "Lucky for you, I'm feeling generous today. I'm willing to overlook this little transgression. In exchange for what? You know what." His free hand came up to stroke her cheek, and Arya flinched away. "Complete the mating bond with me. Become my mate, take my mark, and all of this goes away. Your debts, your exile, your rogue problem, all of it. I'd rather die. That can be arranged too." His voice was silky smooth. "But first, I'd have to deal with your little rogue family. Can't have them spreading their influence, after all." You wouldn't hurt children. I'd do whatever was necessary to protect this pack. His eyes were flat, emotionless. And if that means eliminating a few rogue pups to send a message, so be it. Arya's wolf snarled, pressing close to the surface. Touch them and I'll kill you myself. There's the fire I remember. Damien's smile was cold. I always did like you better when you fought back. Let me go. I'm going to give you 3 days to think about it, he continued as if she hadn't spoken. 3 days to decide what matters more, your pride or their lives. I already decided. No, you decided emotionally. I'm giving you time to think rationally. He released her arm and stepped back. 3 days, Arya. Come back here, kneel before me, and accept my mark. Do that, and I'll ensure your little rogue family is left alone. And if I don't? Then I report them to the council. Harboring rogues is a serious crime, punishable by exile or death depending on the circumstances. His smile widened. And I have it on good authority that one of your rogues is already wanted for questioning in connection with a pack massacre. The council would be very interested in that information. Arya's heart stopped. Kieran. They were after Kieran. I see you understand the gravity of the situation, Damien continued. 3 days. After that, I can't guarantee their safety. Why? The question came out hoarse. Why do you want this? You could have any Omega in the pack. But I don't want any Omega. I want you. His eyes heated. I've wanted you since we were children. You were supposed to be mine, Arya. Your father promised you to me years ago, before that rogue bastard filled your head with romantic nonsense. My father had no right. He had every right. He was your father, your beta. It was his job to arrange a suitable mating. Damien's jaw tightened. But you chose to run around with some nobody instead. Well, look where that got you. Kieran was 10 times the man you'll ever be. Kieran is gone. The words came out sharp. He abandoned you, left you to mate with David, and disappeared. If he cared about you at all, he would have stayed and fought for you. Arya stopped herself. She couldn't tell Damien the truth about why Kieran had left. It would only make things worse. What? Damien moved closer again. Go on, defend him. Tell me how much he loved you while he was running away like a coward. Just, stop. 3 days, Arya. Think about it. You can have safety, security, a place in the pack again. All you have to do is stop being stubborn and accept what was always meant to be. And if I refuse? Then you'll watch everyone you care about die, knowing you could have prevented it. He stepped aside, gesturing toward the door. Now get out of here before someone else sees you. And take your stolen supplies with you, consider them a wedding gift. Arya gathered her backpack with shaking hands, her mind racing. 3 days. She had 3 days to figure out how to protect Kieran and the children without sacrificing herself to a monster. Oh, and Arya? Damien's voice followed her as she reached the door. Don't even think about running. I'll find you, and I'll make sure your rogue friends pay for the inconvenience. The drive back to her apartment passed in a blur. By the time she reached her building, Arya's hands were shaking so badly she could barely turn the key in the lock. You're back early, Kieran said as she entered the apartment. He was sitting on the couch with Emma and Jake, reading to them from a battered picture book. How did, he stopped, his nostrils flaring. What happened? Nothing. I just got the supplies and came back. Liar. He was on his feet immediately, moving toward her. You reek of fear and anger. What happened? It's nothing I can't handle. Arya. His voice was gentle but firm. Tell me. She looked at the children, who were watching the exchange with wide eyes. Can we talk privately? Kieran nodded, leading her into the tiny bedroom and closing the door behind them. Now tell me what happened. I ran into someone from my old pack. It's not a big deal. What kind of someone? Arya sank onto the bed, suddenly exhausted. Damien Steele. He was supposed to be my mate. Before David. And he wants to finish what was started. She couldn't meet his eyes. He knows about you and the children. He's threatening to report you to the council unless I agree to mate with him. Jesus Christ. Kieran ran his hands through his hair. How much does he know? Enough. He knows you're wanted in connection with a pack massacre. He knows about the children. She finally looked up at him. He gave me 3 days to decide. There's no decision to make. We run. Tonight. He'll find us. He made that very clear. Then we run farther. We disappear completely. What about the children? They're already traumatized, already struggling. How many times can we uproot them before it breaks them completely? Kieran was quiet for a long moment. What's the alternative? I mate with him. The words tasted like ash. I go back, accept his mark, and you and the children are safe. Absolutely not. It's the only way. I said no. His voice was hard. I won't let you sacrifice yourself for us. It's not your choice to make. Like hell it isn't. He knelt in front of her, taking her hands. I lost you once because I was too much of a coward to fight for you. I won't make that mistake again. This is different. This isn't about courage, it's about survival. It's about the same thing it's always been about. His golden eyes were fierce. Whether you're going to let them decide your fate, or whether you're going to fight for the life you want. And what if fighting means everyone dies? Then we die free. He squeezed her hands. 7 years ago, I chose safety over love. I chose to walk away rather than risk a fight I might lose. Do you know what that got me? You're alive. I'm alive, but I'm not living. I've spent 7 years existing, not living. Hiding, running, never staying anywhere long enough to build something real. He stood, pulling her up with him. I won't do that to those kids. I won't teach them that the only way to survive is to bow down to bullies. So what do you suggest? We fight. We find a way to neutralize the threat without giving into it. How? I don't know yet. But I know this, I'd rather die fighting beside you than live knowing I let you sacrifice yourself for my mistakes. Arya stared at him, seeing the boy she'd loved transformed into the man she was falling for all over again. You're asking me to risk everything. I'm asking you to trust me. To trust us. He cupped her face gently. We'll figure this out together. But I won't let you face this alone. What if we can't? What if there's no way out? Then we make one. His smile was grim but determined. I didn't survive 7 years as a rogue and save 4 kids from a massacre by giving up when things got tough. And you didn't survive being cast out and build a life from nothing by being weak. I'm not weak. No, you're not. You're the strongest person I know. He kissed her forehead gently. And together, we're stronger than any alpha's son who thinks he can buy you with threats. He'll come for us. Let him come. Kieran's voice was steady. We'll be ready. You don't understand. He's not just an alpha's son, he's the pack enforcer. He has resources, connections, power. And we have something he doesn't. What? We have something worth fighting for. He gestured toward the door, where they could hear the children's voices. They're not just rogues anymore, Arya. They're family. Our family. Is that what this is? What else would you call it? He pulled her close. You, me, for kids who need us, sounds like a family to me. Arya let herself lean into his warmth, let herself imagine for a moment that it could be that simple. That love could be enough to overcome pack politics and death threats and the weight of 7 years of pain. But even as she held him, she was calculating. 3 days. She had 3 days to find a solution that didn't involve her becoming Damien's mate or watching everyone she cared about die. It wasn't much time. But it was all they had. 3 days, she whispered against his chest. 3 days, he agreed. We'll make them count. From the living room came the sound of children's laughter, sweet and innocent and completely unaware of the danger closing in around them. Arya closed her eyes and made a promise to herself. Whatever happened, she wouldn't let Damien win. She'd found her family, her pack, her purpose. And she'd die before she let anyone take that away from her. The fight was just beginning. Chapter 4. The first sign of trouble came at 2 in the morning. Arya jerked awake to the sound of Kieran's low growl, a sound that made her wolf immediately alert. He was crouched by the window, peering through the blinds with the focused intensity of a predator sensing danger. "What is it?" she whispered, careful not to wake the children sleeping on the living room floor. "Trackers." His voice was barely audible. 3 of them, circling the building. They found us faster than I expected. Arya's blood turned to ice. Damien said 3 days. Apparently he changed his mind. Kieran moved away from the window, already reaching for the emergency bag he'd apparently packed while she was gone. "We need to move. Now." "What about?" "Wake them up. Quietly." He was throwing clothes into a second bag, his movements efficient and practiced. "We have maybe 5 minutes before they figure out which apartment we're in." Arya moved to the living room, her heart pounding. The children were scattered across the floor on makeshift beds, peaceful in sleep. She hated to wake them, hated to shatter their temporary sense of security. "Sarah," she whispered, gently shaking the oldest girl's shoulder. "Sweetheart, we need to go." Sarah's eyes snapped open immediately, alert in the way that spoke of too much practice at waking quickly. "Trouble?" "Yes." "Can you help me wake the others?" Within minutes, they were all awake and dressed, moving with the quiet efficiency of people who'd done this too many times before. Tommy clung to Arya's leg, still half asleep and confused, while Emma and Jake helped gather their few possessions. "Where are we going?" Jake asked, his voice carefully neutral. "Somewhere safe," Kieran said, shouldering both bags. "I promise." "You promised that last time," Jake muttered, but he didn't argue as they headed for the door. Kieran held up a hand, listening intently. Then he nodded toward the back of the building. "Fire escape. Move fast, stay quiet." They slipped out through the kitchen window onto the rusty fire escape, the metal groaning softly under their weight. Arya could hear voices in the hallway now, muffled but getting closer. Her heart hammered as they climbed down, Tommy's small body warm against her chest. "My car," she started to say. "They'll be watching it." Kieran helped Emma down the last few rungs. "We go on foot." "Where?" "The underground." The underground. Arya had heard whispers about it, a network of supernatural creatures who existed outside the traditional pack structures. Rogues, outcasts, and those who'd chosen to live free rather than submit to alpha rule. It was supposed to be dangerous, lawless, a place where only the strong survived. But as they hurried through the dark streets, Tommy's weight growing heavier with each block, Arya realized it might be their only option. "Stay close," Kieran murmured as they approached the warehouse district. "And whatever you see, don't react. These people don't trust easily." The abandoned warehouse he led them to looked like every other building in the district: broken windows, graffiti-covered walls, the scent of rust and decay. But when Kieran knocked on a side door in a specific pattern, it opened immediately. The woman who answered was tall and lean, with silver hair and eyes that seemed to glow in the darkness. She looked them over with the cool assessment of someone who'd seen too much. "Kieran." Her voice was gravelly, worn. "You're early. We had to move fast. Trackers found us. I told you that apartment wasn't safe." She stepped aside to let them enter. "Who's the Omega?" "Arya Winters. She's with us." The woman's eyes narrowed. "She smells like pack. Fresh pack. She's not a threat, Vera. That's not for you to decide." But Vera closed the door behind them, engaging multiple locks. You know the rules. No pack affiliations, no outside loyalties. She's been cast out, Kieran said quietly. She's one of us now. Vera studied Arya for a long moment, then nodded toward a staircase. Second floor. The usual room. But this is temporary, you understand? The council's been asking questions about you, and I can't afford the heat much longer. I understand. As they climbed the stairs, Arya whispered, "What council?" The Supernatural Council. They regulate interactions between packs, settle disputes, enforce the old laws. Kieran's voice was grim. They've been looking for me since the massacre. Looking for you specifically? I was the only witness who got away. They want to know what I saw. The second floor was a maze of small rooms, each one occupied by someone who'd found themselves without a pack or home. Arya caught glimpses of other displaced wolves, a few vampires, even what looked like a fey woman with pointed ears and skin that shimmered like moonlight. Their room was small but clean, with a window that looked out over the city. There were 2 beds, a small table, and not much else. It was a far cry from her apartment, but it felt safer somehow. I'm hungry, Tommy said quietly, the first words he'd spoken since they'd left. I know, buddy. Kieran knelt down to the boy's level. I'll see what I can find. I'll go, Arya said. You should stay with them. It's not safe for you to wander around alone. These people don't know you yet. Then introduce me. She met his eyes. I'm part of this now, Kieran. I need to learn how to navigate this world. He was quiet for a moment, then nodded. Stay close. And let me do the talking. The common area on the first floor was larger than Arya had expected, with mismatched furniture and the constant hum of quiet conversation. She counted at least 20 people, all of them watching her with varying degrees of suspicion. Everyone, Kieran said, his voice carrying across the room. This is Arya. She's under my protection. A few nods, some continued stares, but no outright hostility. Arya took that as a good sign. Any word from the street? Kieran asked a man with intricate tattoos covering his arms. Nothing good. The man's voice was rough. Word is there's a bounty on your head now. Big one. How big? 50,000. Another voice, this one female. And it's not just from one pack. Multiple sources. Arya's blood chilled. Multiple sources? The Moonrise pack put up 25, the tattooed man continued. But there's another 25 from the Blood Moon pack. Their alpha is very interested in finding you. Victor Reeves, Kieran said, and Arya heard the fear in his voice. You know him? He's the one who ordered the massacre of the children's pack. Kieran's jaw tightened. He's been hunting us for months. Well, he's closing in. The woman leaned forward. Word is he's got trackers in the city. Professional ones. How professional? The kind that don't give up. Arya felt sick. They were being hunted by 2 different packs, both with the resources to track them down. And they had 4 children to protect. There's something else, the tattooed man said. Reeves has been asking specific questions about the girl. The oldest one. Sarah? Kieran's voice was sharp. What kind of questions? About her parentage. Her bloodline. The man shrugged. Seems like she might be more important than you thought. Back in their room, Kieran paced while the children tried to sleep. Arya sat on one of the beds, holding Tommy who'd been running a fever since they'd arrived. The boy was burning up, his small body shaking with chills. We need to get him to a doctor, she said. No doctors. Too risky. Then what? He's getting worse. Kieran stopped pacing, running his hands through his hair. There's a healer in the underground. She's unconventional, but she knows how to treat supernatural ailments. What kind of unconventional? She's a witch. Works with pack magic, but she's been exiled from the coven for breaking their laws about treating rogues. Can she help him? Maybe. But her services don't come cheap. What does she want? Information. Secrets. Things that can be used as currency in the underground. Arya looked down at Tommy, whose fever seemed to be getting worse by the hour. Then we give her what she wants. Arya. No. She met his eyes. Look at him, Kieran. He's dying. Whatever price she wants, we'll pay it. An hour later, they were in the basement of another warehouse, this one converted into what looked like a cross between a medical clinic and an alchemist's laboratory. The healer, who went by the name Raven, was younger than Arya had expected, maybe mid-30s, with dark hair and eyes that seemed to see too much. Bring him here, Raven said, gesturing to an examination table. Let me see what we're dealing with. She examined Tommy with gentle hands, her eyes glowing faintly as she used what Arya assumed was magical sight. After a few minutes, she stepped back, her expression grim. He's not just sick, she said. He's dying of pack separation. His wolf is trying to bond with you too, but it's not enough. He needs a full pack bond to survive. What does that mean? Arya asked. It means he needs to be formally adopted into a pack structure. Not just emotionally, but magically. And it has to be done by someone with the power to create pack bonds. An alpha, Kieran said quietly. Yes. And not just any alpha, one who's willing to claim a rogue child as their own. Raven's expression was sympathetic. I'm sorry, but there's nothing I can do for him with traditional healing. This is pack magic, and it requires pack authority. How long does he have? Days. Maybe less. Arya felt her world tilt. There has to be another way. There is. Raven glanced at Kieran. If you were to claim your birthright and become an alpha yourself, you'd have the power to save him. What birthright? Arya asked. Kieran was very still. Raven. She deserves to know. Especially if she's going to help you protect those children. Raven turned to Arya. Your mate here isn't just any rogue. He's the rightful alpha heir of the Shadow Moon Pack. That's impossible. The Shadow Moon Pack was destroyed years ago. Officially, yes. But bloodline doesn't die with pack dissolution. He's still the alpha heir, still has the power if he chooses to claim it. Why didn't you tell me? Arya asked Kieran. Because claiming it would make me a target for every pack in the region. The Shadow Moon Pack had enemies, and those enemies would come for me the moment I announced myself. He looked at Tommy, who was barely conscious now. But if it's the only way to save him. It's not the only way, Raven said carefully. There's another option. The girl, Sarah. She's also alpha blood. What? I can smell it on her. She's not just any orphan, Kieran. She's the daughter of an alpha heir. Raven's eyes were sympathetic. If I had to guess, I'd say she's Victor Reeves' niece. His brother Marcus was murdered in the massacre, along with his mate. Sarah is their daughter. The room fell silent. Arya felt the pieces clicking into place, Victor's specific interest in Sarah, his determination to eliminate all witnesses, his relentless pursuit. She's not just a witness, Arya said slowly. She's a threat to his power. Exactly. Marcus was the rightful heir to the Blood Moon Pack. With him dead, Victor took control. But if Sarah is alive and old enough to challenge him, she could claim the pack from him, Kieran finished. Which is why he's so desperate to find her. And why he's willing to pay 50,000 for your head. You're the only one who can testify that she's alive. Arya looked at the sleeping children, her mind racing. Sarah wasn't just a traumatized orphan, she was a displaced alpha heir with the power to challenge one of the most dangerous werewolves in the region. And Tommy was dying because he needed pack magic that only an alpha could provide. What do we do? She asked. We have a choice, Kieran said quietly. I can claim my birthright and try to save Tommy, which puts all of us at risk. Or we help Sarah claim hers, Arya finished. We help her take back what's rightfully hers. That's even more dangerous. Victor won't give up his power without a fight. Then we fight. Arya surprised herself with the steadiness of her voice. These children have been through enough. They deserve to know who they really are. They deserve to have a real home. And if we fail? Then we fail together. She looked at Tommy's pale face, at Sarah sleeping peacefully in the chair, at Emma and Jake curled up on the floor. But we don't abandon them. Not now. Kieran nodded slowly. Then we better start planning. Because once Victor realizes what we're doing, he'll come for us with everything he has. Let him come, Arya said. We'll be ready. But even as she said it, she wondered if they could possibly be ready for what was coming. They were about to challenge one of the most powerful alphas in the region, with nothing but their determination and a group of traumatized children. It should have been impossible. But looking at Tommy's fever-bright eyes, at Sarah's proud profile, at Kieran's fierce determination, Arya felt something she hadn't experienced in years. Hope. They were going to save these children. Whatever it took, however dangerous it became, they were going to give them the life they deserved. The hunt was just beginning. But for the first time, Arya wasn't afraid of being prey. It was time to become the hunters. Chapter 5. Tommy's breathing grew more labored with each passing hour. By dawn, his small body was racked with fever, and his eyes had taken on the glassy sheen that made Arya's wolf whimper in distress. Raven had done what she could, but her remedies were failing. There's someone else, Arya said, watching Kieran pace the small room like a caged animal. Dr. Elena Vasquez. She runs a clinic in the old medical district. I've heard of her, Kieran said. She's expensive. And particular about her clients. She's also the best supernatural healer in the city. Arya adjusted Tommy's blanket, noting how his skin had taken on a grayish pallor. If anyone can help him, it's her. What makes you think she'll see us? Because I saved her daughter's life once. Arya's voice was quiet. Before I was cast out, I worked at the PAC clinic. Elena's daughter came in after a car accident. She was dying, and the human doctors couldn't help her. I convinced our PAC healer to treat her, even though she was a witch's child. Kieran stopped pacing. You never told me that. It wasn't important then. Arya looked at Tommy, whose breathing had become even more shallow. It's important now. The clinic was located in a converted brownstone, discreetly marked only by a small plaque that read E. Vasquez, MD. The waiting room was empty except for a receptionist who looked like she could bench press a car. Dr. Vasquez doesn't see walk-ins, the receptionist said without looking up from her computer. Tell her Arya Winters is here about Tommy, Arya said quietly. She'll know what it means. The receptionist's fingers paused over the keyboard. She looked up, studying Arya with new interest. Wait here. Dr. Elena Vasquez was exactly as Arya remembered, tall, elegant, with silver-streaked hair and eyes that seemed to see straight through to your soul. She appeared in the doorway within minutes, her gaze immediately going to Tommy in Kieran's arms. Bring him back, she said without preamble. Quickly. The examination room was state-of-the-art, equipped with both modern medical equipment and what Arya recognized as magical implements. Elena worked with swift efficiency, her hands glowing faintly as she examined Tommy. How long has he been like this? She asked. 2 days, Kieran said. But he's been declining for weeks. And the other symptoms? Loss of appetite, nightmares, withdrawal? Yes, all of it. Elena stepped back, her expression grave. This isn't a typical illness. He's dying of pack separation syndrome. His wolf is literally pining away from lack of proper bonding. That's what Raven said, Arya replied. But she couldn't help him. Because this isn't something that can be healed with traditional medicine or even most magic. Elena's voice was gentle but firm. He needs a pack bond. A real one, with formal adoption and magical ties. We can't give him that, Kieran said. We're rogues. Actually, you can. Elena looked between them. If you're willing to form your own pack. It's been done before, though it's rare and requires significant sacrifice. What kind of sacrifice? The person who takes the role of alpha must formally reject their birth pack and accept the responsibility of creating new pack bonds from nothing. It's intense. And permanent. Arya felt her heart skip. What exactly does that mean? It means severing all ties to your original pack, not just emotionally, but magically. You'd be cut off from your birth family, your childhood connections, everything that made you who you were before. In exchange, you'd gain the power to create new bonds, to become a true alpha. And if we don't do it? Elena looked at Tommy, whose breathing had become even more shallow. He'll be dead within 24 hours. Maybe less. The weight of those words settled over the room like a shroud. Arya looked at Kieran, seeing her own desperation reflected in his eyes. There's something else, Elena continued. For the ritual to work, it has to be performed by someone with alpha blood. Not just anyone can create pack bonds. Kieran is alpha blood, Arya said. Raven told us he's the heir to the Shadow Moon pack. Is he? Elena's eyes sharpened. That's interesting. I'd heard rumors, but I assumed they were just speculation. They're not, Kieran said quietly. My father was Marcus Shadow Moon. I'm his heir. Then you have the power to save this child. But it will cost you everything you've ever known. Arya's mind raced. Everything they'd ever known. For her, that meant the Moonrise Pack, her father, the life she'd built even after her exile. For Kieran, it meant finally accepting a responsibility he'd been running from for years. How long do we have to decide? Hours, not days. His condition is deteriorating rapidly. Elena glanced at her watch. I can keep him stable for a little while longer, but that's all. We need to think about this, Kieran said. No, Arya said firmly. We need to act. Tommy is dying, and we have the power to save him. What's there to think about? The consequences. Once I claim my birthright, every enemy my father ever made will come for me. And for you, for the children. They're already coming for us, Arya pointed out. Victor has a bounty on your head, Damien is hunting us, and the Supernatural Council wants to question you. How is our situation going to get any worse? At least now we can run. If I become an alpha, I'll have territorial responsibilities. I can't just disappear. Good, Arya said fiercely. I'm tired of running. These children deserve a real home, a real family. They deserve to know they're safe. And if we fail? If I'm not strong enough to protect them? Then we fail together. She took his hand. But we don't let Tommy die because we were too afraid to try. Elena cleared her throat. I hate to interrupt, but there's something else you need to know. The ritual requires a formal rejection of your birth pack. That means you'll need to face them directly, renounce your ties in front of witnesses. My father, Arya said quietly. Yes. And it has to be done in person, on pack territory. No proxies, no written statements. Arya's heart sank. Going back to Moonrise Pack territory meant facing not just her father, but Damien and the entire pack structure that had cast her out. I'll go alone, she said. No, Kieran said immediately. It's too dangerous. You need to stay with Tommy. And if something goes wrong, the children will need you. Arya. This is my choice, she said firmly. My pack to reject, my father to face. I can do this. Elena looked between them. I'll keep Tommy stable while you're gone. But you need to understand, once you start this process, there's no going back. The magical bonds will begin shifting the moment you formally reject your birth pack. How long do I have? The rejection must be completed within 6 hours of Tommy's treatment beginning, Or the magic will fail and he'll die anyway. 6 hours. Arya looked at Tommy's pale face, at the way his small chest struggled to rise and fall. 6 hours to drive to Moonrise Pack territory, find her father, renounce everything she'd ever known, and get back in time to save a dying child. "I'll make it," she said. An hour later, Arya stood outside her father's house, her hands shaking as she knocked on the familiar door. She'd rehearsed what she was going to say during the drive, but now that she was here, the words seemed to stick in her throat. The door opened, and her father stood there, looking older than she remembered. Benjamin Winters had always been a large man, but now he seemed diminished somehow, as if the weight of his responsibilities had begun to crush him. "Arya." His voice was carefully neutral. "I wasn't expecting you. I need to talk to you. It's important." He stepped aside, letting her enter the house where she'd grown up. Everything was exactly as she remembered, the worn leather furniture, the photographs of pack gatherings, the scent of pine and home that made her wolf whine with longing. "You look thin," he said, studying her face. "Are you eating enough?" "I'm fine." "No, you're not. You're exhausted, stressed, and you smell like..." He stopped, his nostrils flaring. "You smell like rogue. I'm here to formally reject my ties to the Moonrise Pack." The words fell into the silence like stones into still water. Her father went very still, his eyes sharpening. "What?" "I'm rejecting my pack bonds. I need you to witness it and make it official." "Arya, you can't. You're already cast out, there's nothing left to reject." "There's always something left. Blood ties, family bonds, the magic that connects me to this place." She straightened her shoulders. "I'm severing all of it." "Why would you do such a thing?" "Because I'm forming my own pack. And I need to be free of all previous obligations." Her father sank into his chair, suddenly looking every one of his 63 years. "With the rogues you've been harboring. With the family I've chosen." "Family." He laughed bitterly. "You're throwing away your real family for a group of strays and outcasts." "My real family threw me away first," Arya said quietly. "Or did you forget that you stood by while the pack cast me out?" "I was trying to protect you." "From what?" "From making the same mistakes I did." He looked up at her, and for the first time, she saw real pain in his eyes. "You think I wanted to lose you? You think I enjoyed watching you mate with David, watching you struggle and fail? Then why?" "Because I knew what was coming." He stood, moving to the window. "The supernatural world is changing, Arya. The old alliances are crumbling, and there's a war coming that will make the pack conflicts of the past look like children's games." "What are you talking about?" "The Supernatural Council is fracturing. Half the packs are choosing sides in a conflict that's been building for decades. And at the center of it all is the question of what to do with the rogues, the outcasts, the ones who don't fit into the traditional structure." Arya felt a chill run down her spine. "What does that have to do with me?" "Everything." He turned to face her. "Your mate, this Kieran Blackwood, he's not just any rogue. He's the rightful heir to the Shadow Moon Pack." "I know that." "Do you know why his pack was destroyed?" Victor Reeves wanted to consolidate power. Victor Reeves was following orders. Her father's voice was flat. "The Supernatural Council ordered the destruction of the Shadow Moon Pack because they were harboring too many rogues, creating too many problems for the established order. That's not possible. It's not only possible, it's documented. I was there, Arya. I was part of the force that was supposed to ensure there were no survivors." The room seemed to spin around her. "You were there?" "I was following orders. My alpha commanded it, the council sanctioned it. It was supposed to be a clean operation, eliminate the alpha and his heir, scatter the pack, problem solved. But Kieran survived. Because I let him." Her father's voice broke. "I saw him running through the woods, just a boy, terrified and alone. I could have caught him, should have caught him. But I let him go." "Why?" "Because I had a daughter about his age, and I couldn't bear the thought of her growing up in a world where children were murdered for their parents' politics. He sat down heavily. I made a choice that night, and I've been living with the consequences ever since. What consequences? The council knows someone helped him escape. They've been investigating, narrowing down the possibilities. It's only a matter of time before they figure out it was me. And when they do, they'll come for me. And for anyone connected to me. He looked at her with eyes full of pain. Including you. So you pushed me away to protect me. I pushed you away because I knew that eventually, you'd find him again. And when you did, you'd be pulled into a war that could destroy everything we've built. He leaned forward. That's why I tried to arrange your mating with Damien. His pack has connections to the council. You would have been protected. Protected and miserable. Better miserable than dead. Arya stared at her father, seeing him clearly for the first time. Not the authoritarian beta who'd controlled her life, but a man who'd made an impossible choice and spent years trying to protect her from the consequences. There's something else, he continued. The children you're protecting, they're not just any orphans. The girl, Sarah, she's the daughter of Marcus Reeves, Victor's brother. She's the rightful heir to the Blood Moon pack. I know that too. Do you know that Victor didn't kill his brother for power? He killed him because the council ordered it. Marcus was planning to challenge the established order, to create a sanctuary for rogues and outcasts. The council couldn't allow that. So they had him murdered. They had his entire family murdered. Except for his daughter, who mysteriously escaped. Her father's eyes were sharp. If the council discovers she's alive, they'll finish what they started. Then we have to protect her. You can't protect her from the supernatural council, Arya. They have resources, connections, power that spans the entire continent. The only way to keep her safe is to hide her, to make sure she never claims her birthright. Or we help her claim it and use it to fight back. Fight back? Her father laughed bitterly. With what? A handful of rogues and outcasts? You're talking about taking on the most powerful supernatural organization in North America. I'm talking about doing what's right. Arya stood, her decision crystallizing. These children have been through enough. They deserve to know who they are, to have a real home, a real family. And if the council has a problem with that, then the council can deal with us. You're going to get yourself killed. Maybe. But I'm going to save Tommy first. She looked at her father, seeing the fear and love warring in his eyes. I need you to witness my rejection of pack bonds. Will you do it? Arya. Will you do it? He was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded. If that's what you really want. It is. Then I'll witness it. But I want you to know, rejecting your pack bonds doesn't mean I stop being your father. It doesn't mean I stop loving you. I know. Her voice was soft. And it doesn't mean I stop loving you either. But I have to do this. I know. He stood, moving to an ornate chest in the corner of the room. If you're going to do this, you'll need these. He pulled out a set of formal documents, the kind used for official pack business. These are rejection papers. Once you sign them and I witness them, the magical bonds will begin to dissolve. How long will it take? Complete dissolution? About 6 hours. Arya's heart leaped. 6 hours. Just enough time to get back to Tommy. There's something else, her father said, handing her an ancient-looking knife. This belonged to your great-grandmother. It's been blessed by pack magic, and it's the traditional tool for bond-breaking rituals. I can't take this. You can, and you will. His voice was firm. You're going to need every advantage you can get for what's coming. As Arya signed the papers, she felt something shift inside her, like a door closing on one part of her life while another opened. The magic was already beginning to work, severing the invisible ties that had bound her to this place, these people, this identity. It's done, her father said quietly, signing his name as witness. You're officially no longer a member of the Moonrise Pack. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. You have no idea what you've just unleashed. Maybe not. But I know what I'm fighting for. She headed for the door, then paused. When the council comes for you, and they will, remember that you have choices. You don't have to face them alone. What are you saying? I'm saying that there's going to be a place for people like you in the world we're building. People who chose to do the right thing, even when it was hard. And if I said I wanted to help you? Then I'd say welcome to the resistance. Her father smiled, and for the first time in years, it reached his eyes. Be careful, daughter. The world you're stepping into is more dangerous than you know. I know. She paused at the door. But it's also more hopeful than you think. As she drove back to the city, Arya felt the magic working through her system, severing bonds and creating space for new ones. By the time she reached the clinic, she was no longer Arya Winters of the Moonrise Pack. She was just Arya, ready to become something new. Tommy was still breathing when she arrived, but barely. Elena met her at the door, her expression urgent. It's time, she said. We can't wait any longer. I'm ready, Arya said, and meant it. The ritual was about to begin, and with it, everything would change. But as she looked at Tommy's pale face, at Kieran's determined expression, at the other children huddled together in hope and fear, Arya knew she was making the right choice. They were going to save this child. And then they were going to save them all. The war was coming, but for the first time, Arya wasn't afraid. She was ready to fight. Chapter 6. The sacred grove Dr. Elena Vasquez had chosen lay 20 miles outside the city, hidden deep in the state forest where ancient oaks formed a natural circle around a clearing that hummed with old magic. Arya could feel the power in the air the moment they arrived, wild, untamed, and older than any pack structure she'd ever known. This place has been used for bonding rituals for over 2 centuries, Elena explained as they carried Tommy's unconscious form into the center of the grove. The magic here is strong enough to create new pack bonds, but it's also unpredictable. Once we begin, there's no stopping the process. Kieran knelt beside Tommy, his hand resting on the boy's burning forehead. How long will it take? The initial bonding? About an hour. Full stabilization will take longer, but he should be conscious and breathing normally by the end of the ritual. And the requirements? Elena's expression was grave. You must formally claim your alpha birthright, accept the responsibility of pack leadership, and mate bond with your Luna. The magic requires a complete pack structure, Alpha, Luna, and pack members. Arya felt heat rise in her cheeks. She and Kieran had been dancing around their rekindled feelings for weeks, but this would make it official. Permanent. What exactly does the mating bond involve? Complete physical and emotional union. The magic will bind your souls together, create a permanent connection that can't be broken by distance or time. Elena's voice was gentle. It's not something to be entered into lightly. We've waited 7 years, Kieran said quietly, his eyes meeting areas across Tommy's still form. I think we've been lied about it long enough. Sarah, Jake, and Emma sat at the edge of the clearing, watching with wide eyes as Elena prepared the ritual space. She'd drawn symbols in the dirt with blessed salt, lit candles at the cardinal directions, and placed ancient-looking crystals around the circle. Once the ritual begins, you can't leave the circle until it's complete, Elena warned. The magic will hold you here, and interrupting it could kill Tommy. What about them? Arya nodded toward the other children. They'll be brought into the pack bond as well. Adopted children, with all the protections and responsibilities that entails. Elena looked at each of them in turn. Are you ready for that level of commitment? Once you're pack, you're family. Forever. We're already family, Sarah said quietly. This just makes it official. Then let's begin. Elena moved to the center of the circle, her hands beginning to glow with soft blue light. Kieran, claim your birthright. Speak the words your father would have taught you. Kieran stood, his voice carrying clearly through the grove. I am Kieran Blackwood, son of Marcus Shadow Moon, heir to the Shadow Moon Alpha line. I claim my birthright and accept the responsibility of pack leadership. The air shimmered around him, and Arya felt the change immediately. Power flowed through the grove like a river breaking through a dam, wild and strong and utterly controlled. Kieran's eyes flashed gold, and when he spoke again, his voice carried the unmistakable weight of alpha authority. I claim this territory for the Shadow Moon Pack, and I offer protection to all who would join us. Arya, Elena's voice was urgent. Now. Before the magic settles. Arya stepped forward, her heart hammering. I am Arya Winters, no longer of the Moonrise Pack. I freely choose to mate bond with Kieran Blackwood and accept the position of Luna to his alpha. The magic surged higher, and Arya felt something fundamental shift inside her. The Omega instincts that had defined her entire life began to transform, becoming something stronger, more confident. She was no longer just an Omega, she was a Luna, with all the power and responsibility that came with it. The children, Elena said. They must accept the bond willingly. Sarah, Kieran's voice was gentle but carried alpha command. Do you accept me as your alpha and choose to join this pack? I do, Sarah said without hesitation. Jake? Emma? We do, they said in unison, their young voices strong and clear. And Tommy? Elena asked. I'll speak for him, Arya said, kneeling beside the unconscious boy. Tommy, by my authority as Luna, I claim you as pack. I offer you safety, love, and a place to belong. The magic exploded around them. Arya felt bonds forming, not just between her and Kieran, but connecting all of them in a web of protection and belonging. She could feel the children's emotions, their relief and gratitude and fierce love. She could sense Kieran's strength, his determination, his absolute commitment to protecting them all. And then the mating bond snapped into place. The world went white. Arya felt herself falling, but Kieran's arms were around her, and suddenly they were somewhere else, not physically, but spiritually. A place where only they existed, where 7 years of separation and pain could finally be healed. Arya. His voice was wonder and reverence and desperate love. I'm here, she whispered. I'm finally here. When they came back to the physical world, they were lying together in the center of the circle, their clothes scattered around them. Arya felt the phantom echo of their joining, the way their souls had merged and separated and merged again until she couldn't tell where she ended and he began. Tommy, she said, struggling to sit up. The boy was breathing normally, his fever broken, his color returning to normal. As she watched, his eyes fluttered open. Arya? His voice was weak but clear. I feel different. You're pack now, she said, gathering him into her arms. You're safe. We all are, Sarah added, but there was something in her voice that made Arya look up sharply. The grove was surrounded. Dark shapes moved between the trees, dozens of them, approaching from all directions. Arya's enhanced senses picked up multiple scents, Victor's pack from the east, Damien's forces from the west, and something else from the north that made her wolf snarl with recognition. The ritual, Elena said urgently. It created a power signature that every supernatural creature within 100 miles would have felt. They know where you are. How many? Kieran asked, his alpha senses already cataloging the threats. Too many, Arya said, pulling the children closer. Victor's brought at least 20 wolves. Damien has maybe 15. And there's something else. Council enforcers, Elena finished grimly. They've been watching, waiting for you to reveal yourselves. Can we run? Not without breaking the protection of the grove. And Tommy's still too weak to shift. Kieran stood, his alpha power radiating outward like heat from a flame. Then we make our stand here. The first attackers broke through the tree line as the sun set, Victor's wolves moving with military precision. But they stopped at the edge of the grove, unable to enter the sacred space. Shadow Moon. Victor's voice boomed across the clearing. He was massive, easily 6.5 feet tall, with silver hair and eyes like chips of ice. You cannot hide in that circle forever. Come out and face justice for your crimes. What crimes? Kieran called back, his voice carrying the full weight of alpha authority. Surviving your massacre? Protecting innocent children? You stole something that belongs to me. Victor's gaze fixed on Sarah, who pressed closer to Arya. Return my niece, and I might let the others live. She's not yours to claim, Arya said, stepping forward. Her Luna power flared, and she felt the magic of the grove respond to her call. She's pack. She's family. She's a blood moon heir, and she belongs with her father's pack. Her father's pack is dead, Sarah said, her young voice carrying surprising strength. You killed them all. I did what was necessary to prevent civil war. Victor's expression didn't change. The council ordered the elimination of all Blood Moon rebels. I was merely following orders. You were murdering families, Kieran snarled. I was maintaining order. Victor gestured, and his wolves began to spread out around the grove. But you wouldn't understand. You're nothing but a rogue playing at being an alpha. I am the rightful alpha of the Shadow Moon Pack, Kieran said, his power flaring. And I challenge your authority here. You have no authority. No territory, no pack, no. He has all of those things, Damien interrupted, emerging from the western tree line with his own forces. More importantly, he has something I want. Arya's blood chilled as Damien's predatory gaze fixed on her. You're too late, she called out. I'm mated now. Bonded. Bonds can be broken, Damien said with a cold smile. Alphas can be killed. And mates can be claimed by right of conquest. Over my dead body, Kieran growled. That was always the plan. The third force emerged from the north, 6 figures in dark suits, moving with the eerie synchronization of council enforcers. Their leader, a woman with silver hair and eyes like winter storms, stepped forward. This gathering is in violation of supernatural law, she announced. By order of the council, you will all submit to questioning. What law? Arya demanded. The law that says children should be murdered to maintain political order? The law that prevents unauthorized pack formation and territorial claims. The enforcer's voice was emotionless. You have created an illegal pack, claimed territory without council approval, and harbored fugitives from justice. The only fugitives here are the ones running from the truth, Elena said, stepping out of the shadows. I've been documenting council corruption for years. The massacre of the Blood Moon Pack, the destruction of the Shadow Moon Pack, the systematic elimination of anyone who opposed the status quo. Dr. Vasquez, the enforcer said. You've been marked for termination. Your interference in council business ends tonight. My interference? Elena laughed bitterly. I've been saving the lives you've been trying to destroy. These children, this pack, they represent everything the council fears. Hope. Change. The possibility of a better world. They represent chaos, Victor snapped. Disorder. The breakdown of everything we've built. You've built nothing but fear and oppression, Sarah said, stepping forward. Her young voice carried surprising power. My father died trying to create something better. You killed him for it. Your father died because he was a traitor to his own kind. My father died because he believed in freedom. Sarah's eyes began to glow with alpha power. And I'm going to finish what he started. The grove erupted in chaos. Victor's wolves charged first, but they couldn't penetrate the sacred circle. The magic held them back, creating a barrier of silver light that sparked and sizzled when they touched it. Damien's forces attacked from the west, but Kieran met them head-on, his alpha power flaring as he shifted into his wolf form. He was magnificent, all black fur and golden eyes, larger than any wolf Arya had ever seen. The council enforcers moved with deadly precision, their weapons gleaming with silver and spelled steel. But Elena was ready for them, her magic crackling as she threw up protective barriers. The children, Arya shouted, her own power rising. Keep them in the center. She felt her Luna abilities awakening fully for the first time. She could sense every member of her pack, could feel their fear and determination and love. More importantly, she could protect them. Silver light poured from her hands, weaving through the grove like living vines. Where it touched the attacking wolves, they staggered back, unable to approach. The magic of the grove was responding to her call, recognizing her as Luna, as protector. Impossible, Victor breathed. You're just an Omega. I was never just an Omega, Arya said, her voice carrying across the clearing. I was a Luna waiting to find her pack. Kieran's howl echoed through the grove as he fought off 3 of Damien's wolves at once. His alpha power was magnificent, but he was outnumbered and they were closing in. Without thinking, Arya reached out through their mate bond, lending him her strength. The connection flared between them, and suddenly they were fighting as one, his physical power combined with her protective magic, their movements synchronized as if they'd been fighting together for years. Together, she whispered, and knew he heard her. Together, he agreed, and launched himself at Damien himself. The 2 alphas collided in the center of the grove, their battle fierce and brutal. Damien was larger, more experienced, but Kieran fought with the desperation of a man protecting his family. Around them, the magical barriers held. Elena's power crackled as she dueled with the council enforcers, her healing magic transformed into something far more dangerous. Victor's wolves prowled the perimeter, unable to enter but unwilling to retreat. Sarah, Arya called out. Now. The girl stepped forward, her young face set with determination. I am Sarah Bloodmoon, daughter of Marcus, rightful heir to the Blood Moon Pack. I claim my birthright and challenge Victor Reeves for leadership. You're just a child, Victor snarled. I'm an alpha, Sarah said, and her power flared, not the wild, untrained power of a child, but something ancient and strong. And I'm calling you out for the murder of my family. The challenge hung in the air like a physical thing. By supernatural law, Victor couldn't refuse. The duel would have to wait until they dealt with the immediate threats, but the challenge was made. Enough. The lead council enforcer raised her weapon, a silver blade that hummed with deadly magic. By order of the council, I sentence you all to death. By what authority? Benjamin Winters stepped out of the eastern tree line, flanked by a dozen wolves from the Moonrise Pack. I am Benjamin Winters, beta of the Moonrise Pack and representative of the Eastern Alliance. These wolves are under our protection. Father, Arya breathed. I told you, he said with a slight smile. You don't have to face them alone. The grove was now surrounded by 5 different factions, all with their own agendas, all ready to fight. But the sacred circle held, and within it, Arya felt her pack's bond growing stronger with each passing moment. This ends now, she said, her Luna power flaring. All of you. You want to fight? You want to spill blood over politics and power? Then you'll have to go through me first. Arya, no, Kieran said, but she was already moving. She stepped to the edge of the circle, her power blazing like a silver sun. I am Arya Blackwood, Luna of the Shadow Moon Pack. I offer sanctuary to any who would join us, and I promise death to any who would harm my family. You can't protect them all, Victor said, but there was uncertainty in his voice now. Watch me, Arya said, and let her power loose. The grove exploded with silver light. Every wolf in the clearing staggered back, their eyes wide with shock and something that might have been fear. This wasn't Omega power or even Luna power, this was something older, deeper, more primal. The magic recognizes her, Elena said in wonder. She's not just a Luna, she's a moon-blessed Luna. Born to protect, born to lead. Impossible, the council enforcer said, but her weapon was shaking in her hands. Not impossible, Benjamin said quietly. Just rare. The last moon-blessed Luna was over a century ago. And she united the packs, Victor said, his voice hollow. Ended the Great War. Brought peace to the supernatural world. History has a way of repeating itself, Kieran said, moving to stand beside Arya. The question is, are you going to be on the right side of it? The standoff stretched on, power crackling in the air as 6 different factions faced off around the sacred grove. But Arya felt no fear. She had her mate, her pack, her family. And she had power she was only beginning to understand. Whatever came next, they would face it together. Choose, she said, her voice carrying to every corner of the grove. Peace or war? Unity or division? The old ways or something better? Choose wisely, Kieran added, his alpha power harmonizing with hers. Because this is the last time we'll ask. The grove fell silent except for the whisper of wind through ancient oaks. And in that silence, the future of the supernatural world hung in the balance. Tommy stirred in Sarah's arms, his fever finally broken, his breathing steady and strong. The pack bond had worked. The children were safe. Now all they had to do was survive what came next. Well? Arya asked, her power still blazing. What's it going to be? The answer would change everything. Chapter 7. The silence stretched for 3 heartbeats before hell broke loose. Victor's howl split the night, and his wolves surged forward despite the sacred barriers. The magic of the grove sparked and crackled as they threw themselves against the protective circle, their desperation overriding their self-preservation. They're breaking through, Elena shouted, her hands blazing with defensive magic. The barriers won't hold much longer. Arya felt the pack bonds pulling at her consciousness, Kieran's fierce determination, the children's fear, her father's grim resolve. But there was something else, something that made her wolf snarl with unease. Damien's moving, she called out, watching as the alpha's son gestured to his wolves. He's. The words died in her throat as Damien's forces suddenly wheeled away from the grove, repositioning themselves not to attack, but to block her father's reinforcements from reaching them. What is he doing? Kieran snarled, his attention split between the council enforcers pressing their attack and Victor's wolves testing the magical barriers. Something's wrong, Benjamin shouted from beyond the grove. My wolves, they're being cut off. Arya watched in horror as Damien's pack surrounded her father's forces, trapping them in a deadly pincer movement. This wasn't the desperate attempt of a rejected suitor to claim what he thought was his. This was coordinated, planned. You bastard, she breathed, understanding flooding through her. This was always the plan. What plan? Kieran demanded, his alpha power flaring as he fought to maintain control of the situation. Damien's not here to claim me, Arya said, her Luna senses picking up the subtle communications between Victor and Damien's forces. He's here to help Victor. The revelation hit like a physical blow. Sarah, who had been standing bravely at the edge of the protective circle, suddenly staggered backward as if she'd been struck. That's impossible, Elena said, but her voice carried doubt. Why would Damien ally with Victor? They're from different regions, different political factions. Unless the politics aren't what we thought they were, Kieran said grimly. Unless this whole thing has been orchestrated from the beginning. Victor's laughter boomed across the grove, confirming their worst fears. Finally, you begin to understand. Did you really think this was about pack politics? About regional disputes? What else would it be about? Arya demanded. Power, my dear. Real power. Victor's massive form prowled the edge of the barriers, his ice-blue eyes fixed on Sarah. The kind of power that transcends pack boundaries and reshapes the supernatural world. The council, the lead enforcer began, but Victor cut her off with a dismissive gesture. The council serves its purpose, but it's become stagnant. Predictable. We need fresh leadership, new vision. His gaze never left Sarah. And that requires eliminating the old bloodlines and installing more, manageable ones. You're talking about a coup, Elena said in horror. I'm talking about evolution. Victor's smile was cold. The supernatural world is changing, whether the council wants to acknowledge it or not. Humans are becoming more aware of our existence, technology is making it harder to hide, and the old ways of doing things are becoming obsolete. So you decided to start a war, Kieran snarled. I decided to end one. A war that's been brewing for decades between those who want to maintain the status quo and those who understand that adaptation is survival. Victor gestured toward Damien, who was efficiently coordinating his forces. Damien understands. His father's pack was one of the first to join our cause. What cause? Arya asked, though she was beginning to fear the answer. The unification of all supernatural packs under a single, strong leadership. No more regional disputes, no more territorial conflicts, no more weak alphas coddling rogues and outcasts. Victor's eyes gleamed. One alpha, one law, one vision for our people's future. Your vision, Sarah said quietly, but her voice carried across the grove with surprising strength. My vision, Victor agreed. And it starts with eliminating the last of the old bloodlines. The Shadow Moons, the Blood Moons, any pack that might serve as a rallying point for resistance. That's why you killed my parents, Sarah continued, her young face set with determination. Not because they were harboring rogues, but because they would have opposed your takeover. Your father was a romantic fool who believed in outdated concepts like pack autonomy and individual choice. Victor's expression hardened. He would have led thousands to their deaths fighting against the inevitable. I simply accelerated the timeline. You murdered innocent people. I prevented a civil war that would have destroyed us all. Victor took a step closer to the barriers, and Arya felt them waver under the pressure of his alpha power. But I made one mistake. I let emotion cloud my judgment and allowed my brother's child to escape. Because you loved him, Sarah said with startling insight. Even as you killed him, you loved him. Love is weakness, Victor snapped, but Arya caught the flash of pain in his eyes. It makes us hesitate when we should act, compromise when we should dominate. Your father's love for rogues and outcasts got him killed. No, Sarah said, stepping forward despite the danger. Your fear of love got him killed. Your fear that he was right, that there was a better way. Enough. Victor's power exploded outward, and the sacred barriers cracked like glass. You will come with me now, willingly or otherwise. Your bloodline ends tonight. Over my dead body, Arya snarled, her Luna power flaring to reinforce the failing barriers. That can be arranged. Damien's voice came from directly behind them. Arya spun around to find him standing just outside the grove, having somehow circled around during the confrontation. His wolves flanked him, their eyes glowing with anticipation. How? Kieran demanded. Did you really think the sacred grove would protect you from someone who helped design this trap? Damien's smile was coldly satisfied. I've been planning this for months. Every move you've made, every choice you've thought was yours, all of it has been leading to this moment. The arranged mating, Arya breathed. It was never about love or politics. It was about control. Damien's expression grew thoughtful. If you had accepted me willingly, this could have been so much simpler. You would have been the perfect alpha female for the new order, strong enough to inspire loyalty, but controlled enough to follow direction. You're insane. I'm practical. The supernatural world needs strong leadership, and Victor and I intend to provide it. Damien gestured, and his wolves began to spread out, surrounding the grove. But first, we need to eliminate the competition. Sarah's just a child, Elena protested. Sarah is an alpha heir with enough latent power to challenge Victor's authority if she ever learns to use it properly. Damien's gaze fixed on the girl. She's also the perfect tool to ensure cooperation from other packs. Imagine how much more compliant they'll be when they see what happens to those who oppose us. You won't touch her, Kieran growled, his alpha power blazing. Actually, I will. Damien's power answered Kieran's challenge, and the air between them crackled with tension. You see, there's something you don't know about your precious Sarah. Something even she doesn't know. What? Sarah asked, her voice steady despite her obvious fear. You're not just Victor's niece, child. You're his designated heir. Damien's smile widened at their shocked expressions. Oh yes, Victor may talk about eliminating bloodlines, but he's not stupid. He knows that lasting power requires legitimacy, and there's no legitimacy without bloodline succession. That's impossible, Victor snapped. I would never. Never what? Never ensure that your line continues to rule? Damien laughed. Come now, Victor. Did you really think I didn't know about your true plans? About how you intend to adopt Sarah as your heir once you've broken her spirit and molded her into the perfect successor? The silence that followed was deafening. Arya felt the pack bonds vibrating with shock and horror as the true scope of the conspiracy became clear. You're both monsters, Elena said quietly. We're survivors, Damien corrected. And we're offering you the chance to survive as well. Join us willingly, and we'll find places for you in the new order. Resist, and die with the old one. What about the council? The lead enforcer asked, her weapon still raised but her voice uncertain. The council will adapt or be replaced, Victor said dismissively. Their authority comes from the consent of the packs. Once we control enough territory, their laws become irrelevant. This is treason, the enforcer said. This is evolution, Victor repeated. And it starts now. He moved faster than thought, his massive form blurring as he launched himself at the weakened barriers. The sacred magic sparked and held for a moment, then shattered like crystal. Sarah, run! Arya shouted, her Luna power exploding outward to create a protective shield around the children. But Sarah didn't run. Instead, she stepped forward, her young face set with determination that should have been impossible for an 8-year-old. No, she said quietly. I'm tired of running. Sarah, Kieran began. I'm tired of being afraid, tired of hiding, tired of letting other people die to protect me. Sarah's voice grew stronger, and Arya felt a surge of power from the girl that made her wolf whimper with recognition. I am Sarah Blood Moon, daughter of Marcus, heir to the Blood Moon pack. And I challenge you, Victor Reeves, for the right to lead. You're a child, Victor snarled, but he had stopped his advance. I'm an alpha, Sarah said, and her power flared, not the wild, untrained energy of a young wolf, but something ancient and controlled and absolutely terrifying. And I'm claiming my birthright. The grove fell silent. By supernatural law, the challenge had to be acknowledged. Even Victor, for all his power and arrogance, couldn't ignore a formal challenge from a legitimate heir. You have no pack to back your claim, he said finally. She has mine, Kieran said immediately. And mine, Arya added, her Luna power harmonizing with Sarah's alpha energy. And mine, Benjamin called from beyond the grove, his voice carrying the weight of beta authority. This is madness, Damien snarled. She's 8 years old. Age is irrelevant in matters of bloodline succession, Elena said, stepping forward. The magic recognizes her claim. The question is whether Victor has the courage to answer it. Courage? Victor's eyes blazed with fury. You dare question my courage? I question your honor, Sarah said quietly. You murdered my parents under false pretenses, hunted innocent children, and betrayed everything our people stand for. But you're afraid to face one little girl in single combat. I am not afraid of you, child. Then prove it. Sarah's power pulsed again, and this time Arya felt the full scope of it. This wasn't just alpha energy, this was something older, deeper, more primal. The kind of power that had shaped the supernatural world centuries ago. Very well, Victor said finally. I accept your challenge. But when I kill you, I want your new pack to watch. I want them to understand the price of defying me. You won't kill her, Benjamin said quietly. Because she's not going to face you alone. The challenge, Victor began. The challenge is between Sarah and you, yes. But pack law also states that an alpha heir has the right to name champions to fight in their place until they reach the age of majority. Benjamin stepped into the grove, his beta power adding to the strange symphony of energies. I volunteer to be her champion. As do I, Elena said, her witch magic crackling. And I, Kieran added, his alpha power blazing. And I, Arya finished, her Luna energy weaving through all of them, binding them together into something stronger than the sum of their parts. This is highly irregular, the council enforcer said, but she made no move to intervene. These are irregular times, Benjamin replied. And sometimes irregular situations require irregular solutions. Victor looked around the grove, taking in the assembled forces arrayed against him. His own wolves were powerful, but they were facing not just individual fighters but a united pack with bloodline claims and magical backing. "This changes nothing," he said finally. "I will still win, and Sarah will still die. But if you insist on dying with her, so be it." "Actually," Benjamin said, reaching into his jacket and pulling out a thick folder, "there's one more thing you should know before this goes any further." "What now?" Victor snarled. "Evidence," Benjamin said simply. 7 years worth of documentation proving your conspiracy, your murders, your plans for supernatural conquest. Communications with other Alpha conspirators, financial records showing payments to council members, even recordings of your conversations with Damien. The grove fell silent except for the whisper of wind through ancient leaves. "Impossible," Damien breathed. "Not impossible. Just carefully planned." Benjamin's smile was cold. "Did you really think I'd let my daughter get involved in this without ensuring I had leverage?" "You're bluffing," Victor said, but uncertainty flickered in his eyes. "Am I?" Benjamin opened the folder, revealing photographs, documents, and what looked like several recording devices. "Shall I start with the records of your payments to Council Enforcer Margaret Stone? Or perhaps the communications detailing your plans to eliminate the Moonrise Pack leadership once you'd secured control of the region?" The lead Council Enforcer, Margaret Stone, apparently, went pale. Those are fabrications." "Are they?" Benjamin pulled out one of the recording devices and pressed play. Victor's voice filled the grove, clear and unmistakable. "The Moonrise Pack will be eliminated once we've secured the region. Their beta has outlived his usefulness, and his daughter's stubborn independence makes her too dangerous to leave alive." "Enough," Victor snarled, but the damage was done. Every supernatural creature in the grove had heard the recording, and the implications were staggering. "There's more," Benjamin continued calmly. "Much more. Years of planning, dozens of conspirators, hundreds of crimes. All documented, all verified, all ready to be presented to the full Supernatural Council." "You can't," Margaret said desperately. "The chaos it would cause." "The chaos it would prevent," Benjamin corrected. Victor's war was always going to happen. The only question was whether it would be fought in secret, with innocent people dying while the truth remained hidden, or in the open, where justice could be served. Victor's roar of fury shook the grove. "You think your evidence matters? I have power, I have allies, I have." "You have nothing," Sarah said quietly. "Your allies will abandon you the moment this evidence becomes public. Your power means nothing if every pack in the region knows you're a traitor and a murderer. And your conspiracy ends here," Kieran added, his alpha authority ringing through the grove. "Tonight." Victor looked around the grove one more time, seeing his plans crumbling around him. His wolves were already backing away, their loyalty wavering as the scope of his betrayal became clear. "This isn't over," he snarled. "Yes," Sarah said with quiet certainty, "it is." The battle that followed was swift and brutal. Victor fought with the desperation of a wolf with nothing left to lose, but he was outnumbered and outmatched. His remaining loyalists fell one by one, while Damien's forces scattered when their alpha turned and fled rather than face the consequences of his betrayal. When the dust settled, Victor lay defeated in the center of the grove, his power broken, his conspiracy shattered. The council enforcers who remained were already calling for backup, ready to arrest the surviving conspirators. "It's over," Arya said, gathering Tommy and the other children close. "It's finally over." "For now," Benjamin agreed, looking at the evidence scattered around them. "But there will be trials, investigations, restructuring. The supernatural world is about to change dramatically." "Good," Sarah said, her alpha power still humming with potential. "It's time for something better." As dawn broke over the grove, Arya felt the pack bonds settling into their new configuration. They were no longer just a group of rogues and outcasts trying to survive. They were a family, a pack, a force for change in a world that desperately needed it. The war was over, but the real work was just beginning. And for the first time in 7 years, Arya wasn't afraid of what came next. She had her mate, her children, her pack. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. The future had never looked brighter. Chapter 8. The supernatural council chambers were carved from black granite, ancient and imposing, with silver inlays that caught the light from dozens of floating orbs. Arya had never seen anything like it, a room that seemed to exist outside of time, where the very air hummed with centuries of accumulated power and authority. She sat in the front row of the gallery, Kieran beside her, their hands intertwined as they watched the proceedings below. 3 weeks had passed since the confrontation in the grove, and the supernatural world was still reeling from the revelations. "The evidence is overwhelming," Chief Counselor Helena Blackthorne announced, her silver hair gleaming in the otherworldly light. "Victor Reeves stands accused of conspiracy, murder, treason, and violation of pack sovereignty. The documentation provided by Beta Benjamin Winters spans 7 years and implicates dozens of conspirators across multiple regions." Victor sat in the defendant's chair, his massive frame somehow diminished by the magical restraints that bound him. His ice-blue eyes held no remorse, only cold calculation. Even facing death, he was planning his next move. "The council recognizes the evidence as authentic," Counselor Blackthorne continued. "Victor Reeves, you are hereby stripped of your alpha status and sentenced to life imprisonment in the void chambers, where your wolf will be bound and your magic suppressed." "You're making a mistake," Victor said, his voice carrying across the chamber. "The old ways are dying. Change is coming whether you're ready or not. Change guided by wisdom and law, not by murder and betrayal," Counselor Blackthorne replied. "The Blood Moon Pack territory is hereby restored to its rightful heir, Sarah Blood Moon, to be held in trust until she reaches the age of majority." Sarah sat in the front row with them, her small hand clasped in Arya's. At 8 years old, she was the youngest pack heir in supernatural history, but she bore the responsibility with a grace that left Arya in awe. "I formally decline to claim the Blood Moon territory," Sarah said, her clear voice carrying to every corner of the chamber. "I choose to remain with the Shadow Moon Pack as an adopted daughter." A murmur rippled through the gallery. It was unprecedented, an alpha heir voluntarily giving up her birthright to remain with an adopted pack family. "Are you certain, young alpha?" Counselor Blackthorne asked gently. The Blood Moon Pack was one of the most powerful in the region. "You would be giving up significant resources and territory." "I'm certain," Sarah said firmly. "My family isn't about territory or resources. It's about love and loyalty and people who would die to protect each other. I found that with the Shadow Moon Pack. Then the Blood Moon territory will be administered by the council until you choose otherwise," Counselor Blackthorne said. "However, there remains the matter of compensation for the crimes committed against your birth pack. I request that the Blood Moon territory be granted to the Shadow Moon Pack," Sarah said. "As reparation for the murders of my parents and the attempted murder of my pack family." Another murmur, this one of surprise. The Blood Moon territory was vast, nearly 1,000 acres of prime supernatural land with established infrastructure and resources. "That is an extremely generous offer," Counselor Blackthorne said carefully. "Alpha Kieran, do you accept this grant?" Kieran stood, his alpha power filling the chamber. "I accept, with the understanding that the Shadow Moon Pack will honor the memory of the Blood Moon Pack and provide sanctuary for any supernatural being seeking a second chance." "So witnessed," Counselor Blackthorne said. "The Blood Moon territory is hereby granted to the Shadow Moon Pack, along with all rights and responsibilities therein." "This is a farce," a voice called from the back of the chamber. Damian Steele stepped forward, his face twisted with rage. "You're rewarding rogues and outcasts while punishing those who tried to maintain order. Order through murder and conspiracy?" Counselor Blackthorne's voice was cold. "Damian Steele, you have been stripped of your rank and exiled from all pack territories. You have no standing in this chamber." "I have the right of final words," Damian snarled, his gaze fixed on Arya. "And I want them to know, this isn't over. I will have my revenge, and I will have what's rightfully mine." "You have nothing," Arya said quietly, standing to face him. "No rank, no pack, no future. You threw it all away for a power that was never real." "I threw it away for you," Damian said, his voice dropping to a whisper that somehow carried through the chamber. Everything I did was for you. To make you see that you belonged with me. I never belonged with you, Arya said firmly. I belonged with my family, my pack, my mate. You just refused to accept it. This isn't over, Damien repeated, backing toward the exit. I'll find a way. I'll make you pay for what you've taken from me. Security, Counselor Blackthorn said calmly, and two enforcers materialized beside Damien. Escort the exile from the chambers. As Damien was dragged away, his threats echoing through the chamber, Arya felt Kieran's hand tighten on hers. They both knew this wasn't truly over. Men like Damien didn't simply disappear when their plans failed. But for now, they were safe, and their pack was recognized. There is one final matter, Counselor Blackthorn said as the chamber settled. The status of the Shadow Moon pack itself. Kieran Blackwood, step forward. Kieran released Arya's hand and approached the council bench, his back straight, his alpha power controlled but unmistakable. You are the rightful heir to the Shadow Moon pack, as confirmed by blood magic and documented lineage, Counselor Blackthorn said. However, your pack was officially dissolved 7 years ago. Do you formally request reinstatement? I do, Kieran said firmly. I claim my birthright as Alpha of the Shadow Moon pack and request recognition of my pack bonds. And your Luna? Arya Blackwood, formerly Arya Winters, mate bonded and pack bonded through the sacred ritual of the Grove. Step forward, Luna Arya. Arya rose and joined Kieran before the council bench, her Luna power harmonizing with his alpha energy. She could feel the weight of history in this moment, not just their personal history, but the history of their people. The council recognizes the Shadow Moon pack as legally restored, Counselor Blackthorn announced. Alpha Kieran Blackwood and Luna Arya Blackwood are hereby granted full pack rights and the combined territories of the former Shadow Moon and Blood Moon packs. The chamber erupted in applause, but Arya barely heard it. She was focused on the children, their children, sitting in the front row with expressions of wonder and joy. Tommy's fever had broken completely, and he was thriving in their pack bond. Jake and Emma were smiling, really smiling, for the first time since she'd known them. And Sarah. Sarah was crying, but they were tears of happiness. After months of running and hiding, she finally had a home. 2 months later, Arya stood on the porch of their new home, watching the sun set over the Shadow Moon territory. The house was a sprawling log cabin, not quite a mansion, but large enough for their growing pack. They'd found it in the ruins of the old Blood Moon compound, and with her father's help, they'd restored it to its former glory. The new arrivals are settling in well, Benjamin said, joining her on the porch. Her father had requested a transfer to their territory, citing his desire to help build something better. The council had approved, and he'd thrown himself into the work with the dedication of a man seeking redemption. How many now? Arya asked. 37 total. 15 adults, 22 children. Benjamin's voice carried satisfaction. Word is spreading through the rogue networks. They're calling us the Sanctuary Pack. Good. That's what we wanted to be. Through the large windows, Arya could see Kieran helping Tommy with his homework while Sarah read to some of the younger children. Jake and Emma were playing chess with 2 of the newly arrived teens, their laughter carrying through the evening air. You've built something remarkable here, Benjamin said quietly. A place where outcasts can become family, where rogues can find purpose. Your mother would be proud. I hope so. Arya's hand drifted unconsciously to her stomach, where she'd been feeling strange flutters for the past week. I hope she'd approve of all our choices. She would. Benjamin's voice was certain. She always said that love was the only thing that mattered in the end. Love and the courage to fight for it. Speaking of fighting, Arya said, any word on Damien? He's gone to ground. The council's enforcement division is tracking him, but he's skilled at staying hidden. Benjamin's expression darkened. He's not the type to give up easily. I know. But we're not the same people he tried to control before. We're stronger now, more united. If he comes for us, we'll be ready. We will, Benjamin agreed. This pack you've built, it's not just about sanctuary. It's about hope. About showing our people that there's another way to live. Inside the house, Kieran's laughter mixed with the children's voices, creating a symphony of family that made Aria's heart swell. This was what she'd fought for, not just survival, but the chance to thrive. Aria? Kieran's voice called from inside. Could you come here for a moment? She found him in the kitchen, surrounded by the controlled chaos of evening meal preparation. Sarah was helping him chop vegetables while Tommy set the table, his small face serious with concentration. What's wrong? Aria asked, noting the slight tension in Kieran's shoulders. Nothing's wrong. He paused, studying her face. You've been tired lately. More than usual. And your scent has been changing. Aria's hand went instinctively to her stomach again. Changing how? Sweeter. Warmer. Like. He trailed off, his eyes widening. Aria, when was your last heat? I don't know. With everything that's been happening, I haven't been tracking. She stopped, doing the math in her head. Oh, what? Sarah asked, looking up from her vegetables. Nothing, sweetheart. Just, adult things. Aria met Kieran's eyes, seeing her own wonder reflected there. I need to see Dr. Elena. I'll call her, Kieran said immediately. She can be here in an hour. Call her for what? Tommy asked, his small face curious. We might have some news to share, Aria said carefully. But we need to be sure first. An hour later, Dr. Elena Vasquez sat in their living room, her medical bag open beside her. She'd examined Aria privately, then returned to face the anxious family gathered around the fireplace. Well? Kieran asked, his alpha control barely containing his excitement. Congratulations, Elena said with a warm smile. You're going to be parents. About 6 weeks along, I'd estimate. The room erupted in cheers. Sarah launched herself at Aria, hugging her tightly, while Tommy and the twins danced around the room. Even the other pack members who'd gathered for dinner joined in the celebration, their joy infectious. A baby, Kieran breathed, kneeling beside Aria's chair and placing his hand on her still flat stomach. We're having a baby. We're having a baby, Aria confirmed, tears streaming down her face. Our pack is growing. Our pack has been growing, Sarah pointed out practically. We've got 37 members now. What's one more? This one's different, Emma said with 8-year-old wisdom. This one's really, really ours. You're all really, really ours, Aria said, pulling the children closer. Every single one of you. As the celebration continued around them, Aria felt the profound sense of rightness that had been growing since the night in the grove. This was what she'd been meant to do, not just survive, but create something beautiful from the ashes of loss and betrayal. I love you, Kieran whispered against her ear. All of you. This whole impossible, wonderful family. I love you too, she whispered back. And I'm so proud of what we've built. We're not done building yet, he said with a grin. Something tells me this is just the beginning. 6 months later, Aria stood in the same spot on the porch, watching the sun set over their territory. Her pregnancy was showing now, a gentle swell that made her Luna power hum with contentment. Kieran's hand rested on her belly, feeling for the baby's kicks. How many now? He asked, nodding toward the compound where several new buildings had been constructed. 63, Aria said with satisfaction. And Elena thinks we'll hit 100 by the end of the year. The council's not happy about our growth rate, Kieran said, though he didn't sound concerned. The council needs to adapt, Aria replied. The old ways of doing things aren't working anymore. People need sanctuary, need hope, need a place where they can be themselves without fear. They need family, Sarah said, joining them on the porch. She'd grown several inches in the past months, and her alpha power was developing steadily. That's what we really offer, the chance to belong to something bigger than themselves. Speaking of belonging, Kieran said, I have news. The council has agreed to officially recognize us as a sanctuary pack. We'll have special status, protected territory, and funding to continue our work. That's wonderful, Arya said. But they want us to expand. They want us to establish satellite sanctuaries in other regions, help other displaced packs find their footing. What did you tell them? I told them we'd consider it. After the baby comes, after we've had time to solidify what we've built here. Kieran's hand tightened on her belly. This is our home. Our foundation. Everything else builds from here. Good answer, Arya said, leaning back against his chest. Though I suspect we'll say yes eventually. This is too important to keep to ourselves. Probably, Kieran agreed. But for now, we focus on our family. Our pack. Our future. As if summoned by their words, the children began appearing on the porch, Tommy and Jake racing to see who could reach them first, Emma following with her latest art project, and a dozen other young faces that had become as precious to Arya as her own blood. Story time? Tommy asked hopefully. Always, Arya said, settling into the large rocking chair Kieran had built for her. What story would you like to hear? The one about the broken Omega who became a Luna, Sarah said, curling up at Arya's feet. And the rogue who became an Alpha, and the four pups who found their home. That's not a story, Emma protested. That's what really happened. The best stories are the ones that really happened, Arya said, beginning to rock gently. Once upon a time, there was a struggling Omega mom eating alone in a diner, when four small voices asked, "May we have your leftovers?" And when she looked up, she saw the eyes that broke her heart, and changed her life forever. As she spoke, Arya felt the baby kick, as if responding to the sound of her voice. Around her, the children of their pack listened with rapt attention, safe and loved and home. This was her story, their story, the story of the Shadow Moon pack. It wasn't a fairy tale, it was better. It was real, and it was theirs, and it was just beginning. Outside, the sun set over their territory, painting the sky in shades of gold and crimson. And in the distance, Arya could see the lights of new construction, new buildings, new hope for the future. Their pack was growing, their family was thriving, and their story was far from over. It was, Arya thought as she continued to rock and tell stories to her children, the perfect ending to one chapter and the beautiful beginning of another. The future stretched ahead of them, full of possibility and promise. And for the first time in her life, Arya wasn't afraid of what it might bring. She was ready for all of it. The end. Thank you for listening to this story. Like, share and subscribe for more.